Okay, gentlemen, you are live.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the March 15th, 2022 meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, gentlemen, the first thing that we have on our agenda today are the minutes. Do you have any additions, corrections?
I do not. I move we approve the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners of Montezuma County, March 8th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, March 8th, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next thing we have is planning. Come on down, guys. It looks like you're going to give us a pretty light agenda for this week.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the applicant, Triple S Farms, Ernie is the agent, requested a sketch plan review for a proposed planned unit development. This property is southeast corner of their large agricultural property. It's just at the access off of 145 over to the airport VOR. It's been there forever. So right there in the corner where the center pivot doesn't reach, they're looking at putting in 3 lots in a PUD. Go to the next drawing, shack or picture. The real world picture there. So the top picture there is the VOR on the left, access from CDOT. That's a grandfathered access. Once they, if they get approval for the PUD, they'll have to get an access permit from CDOT. But right now, that's a grandfathered access to the VOR.
So, unless I don't really see this, I mean, I obviously know where the road is that goes out to the VOR, but where are the lots?
They would be down
Right,
on
right in that corner. Where
on the
that
east
center
side
pivot
by the
comes
highway.
around like this, it's right
Yeah.
there. I think,
It's
sort
one of
of.
the first map shack. Right there, where it says 3 to 4 acres. There's 3 lots in the corner.
Yep.
They'd be right there in that triangle. Because the center pivot can't reach into a corner, so it's just dead space. It can't be farmed.
Okay.
Yeah, with the center pivot the size that he's got out there, that's a big corner that's
Yep.
left vacant.
Yep. I can see it now. Now I know where you're at. So what's the, it's 3 to 4 acres total, so there'd be about an acre, 1 acre lot,
Yes, per lot,
roughly?
yes.
So how do you, is that just that hashed line, is that the access on the, which would run parallel to 145?
That's the existing road, and that's what they're using for access to these lots, and there would remain access for the agricultural also. There'd be intermittent use for the operation, a hay operation.
So how does this differ from a subdivision instead of a PUD, just because of the size?
Just because of the size, that's correct. And the center pivot, and this is not planned out, but Spencer has said that when the center pivot comes around, he will leave an easement on the backside of these lots for more privacy of the lot owners to where the center pivot actually stops, the wheel of the center pivot. right now, there's a contour lines, and there's a ridge right there in that back line, follows the contour line of the high point of the ridge. And that's also he wants to capture for the PUD in the housing sites.
Can you go to the last map, Shaq? There you go.
You have two concentric arcs there, and the one closest to the highway would be the edge of the PUD.
Okay.
And the other one, the furthest out, or the larger arc, is actually the wheel of the center pivot. So we want to incorporate the top of the ridge for house sites for the homeowners, and then the area between the subdivision or the PUD and the center pivot wheel would be dedicated as a non-easement, a privacy easement.
Okay.
So it would never be utilized other than just agricultural. Now, these lines are just preliminary lines, but this
Sure.
is the philosophy of what we're trying to do.
So historically, what do we do with all these corners that center pivots create? I mean, does anybody have an idea? Because you're in a circle and now you have four corners that are typically going to end up something like this all the time. Is that
A lot of them are hay barns, storage of equipment.
You just pull it from
There's also a lot of them that they actually have a tracking last arm on that will swing around and pick those corners up. But it's expensive to put that on there for no more land than you're gaining when you do that. That's why most people don't do it. But they do have a setup that you can actually put on that pivot, that when it comes to that corner, it comes out, extends another tower out, and comes back in. It follows, used to follow basically you put a wire in the ground, and it followed that wire. Just, that's what it did. But now it's all from satellite, and you can that runs off the satellite, and it'll track around and come around and catch that corner. But it's expensive for no more acres than you gain. It's pretty hard to justify. But there is some of them around. If you go down south of Durango where they're building that new highway down through there, some of those guys got enough money that they put those on. There's several of them down through there where they're putting the highway now, just because they were capable of coming up with enough money to do that. But a lot of them are just, some people actually run a line over there and irrigate them with pods or different things also, and then like they use them for storage in hay barns and everything else because they can't use that ground to irrigate it.
I guess what I'm thinking about is how does this differ from the one that was presented to us last week or 2 weeks ago? That split that was being asked to be made for an acre and a half, acre and a quarter off of that 4-acre tract.
Right.
I mean, there's obviously going to have to be I'm just trying to figure out how.
Right, so the premise of a PUD is that you cluster the houses in one area and leave the open space, typically ag space, available for use. And basically for ag use, and that way you've got the houses consolidated in one area. If you were to subdivide, you'd be taking up 10 acres because of the roads and everything else to accommodate the same thing. So it's just so that the houses can all be clustered closer, leaving more ag land available to operate on.
And wasn't the other
understand this
one
one.
ineligible for a PUD because it was only going to be the one lot?
Well, yeah, you can't just take an existing 2 houses and split them under 3 acres each and call it a PUD. because they don't have any other space there that they're, preserving for anything. That one, the premise was just to split it off and sell it later.
Correct, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. I understand this one, but I'm trying to make logical sense of what was presented to us a week ago in comparison to this one.
Right.
So,
It's the number of lots that's being created is the difference.
the number of lots. And have you even talked to CDOT yet? Because CDOT is kind of our biggest,
Of course, before you approach CDOT, we want to get a preliminary approval, the sketch plan approval from the board.
Well, so I don't think we're in a position where we can approve this today. I mean, I think this.
Well, it's not a vote or an approval.
Yeah.
Like I said in the packet, they just want the nod before they get started spending money on it.
which was my exact question yesterday, and I understand what the land use code says. So we circumvent the process.
We're just, this pre-sketch, we're
Right.
presenting
Okay.
this to you to proceed.
It would still have to go through P and Z.
Right. And the next plan is to contact the CDOT and get your access approved.
So
Oh, I'm
it's
with you.
just a pre-sketch plan. If you looked at it and you're like, well, I don't see any way we could ever approve this, then, without this, or this, then the applicant knows going in, there's no reason to go through all the public hearings to get back to the
I
point
would
of.
be-
I think we need to be really careful here, though, too, because, I mean, there is a public hearing process, there's a process for the applications to go in, and so I think we need to be really clear today that there's no promises being made, there's still things that need to be done, I mean, and quite,
I think it's just a ask of whether or not to move forward with the process,
That's it.
is how I'm
Correct.
taking it.
Correct.
If you found.
well,
So
and
they
and
can
even,
move
and
through
even
the
that, I want to be
process.
careful with that, because, I mean, certainly everybody has a right to go through the process. And so, I don't want to sit up here, I don't want you guys to sit up here and say, oh, yeah, go ahead and move through the process, wink, wink, with the idea that, yeah, this looks like something that we'd approve or not. I think it needs to go through the process, and I think once it goes through the process, then we make a decision. I mean, that's why these processes are set up.
But with what you're looking at today, now, if you see conditions that have to be met that are unreasonable, we won't proceed.
Well, from what I see is CDOT is gonna be the biggest
That's-
challenge right there
Yeah.
because of where it's at.
Of course,
And CDOT right now does not want to give any other permits. This is going to put at least 2, 4, 6 more traffic counts at a minimum per day, where the VOR is using one a month, maybe?
Right.
Or one every 6 months, I don't know.
Yeah.
correct.
So,
I don't know how often they're servicing that anymore.
Right.
And they're aren't they about to vacate that VOR?
That, I don't know, it's this speculation.
way beyond our
Yeah.
Correct.
capacity here, so,
Now, as far as it goes, the access to the VOR, they are just using this access. They don't have an easement. The easement actually comes off Road M over by, near the Mormon church, and goes access to the VOR.
to the north.
Yeah.
But there's no road, there's no access built, so they continue to use this where there's no easement.
Well, that won't need to be cleared up.
It's
So
been the
I-
access for 50, 60 years, so same thing.
Do they
CDOT never
consider,
looked at anything when they did all their new overlays, aprons, and now after the fact.
does
they
that
just-
fall under use by
They just want
right?
traffic counts because they don't want to do it.
Right by
themselves.
use?
We'll just have to go to CDOT.
Yeah,
See what happens.
I guess like Ian said, I can see what you're trying to do. I would say your biggest challenge is going to be getting through the process
Of course.
to get it done. I'm not sure that,
That's fine. That's what I expect. There's no big hurdles that you see, big conditions you could see that we have to meet.
no,
Other than
the
normal.
process is going to take care of the water, the septic, the
Yep.
access, the entire deal. So I guess if you're asking for just a
We're just informing you of what we're doing,
Yep.
and we'll want to proceed.
At this point, I don't see any roadblocks except CDOT.
Fine. Thank you. And we realize that,
Nor do I, but
okay?
that could be a roadblock,
That's right.
because it accesses their highway, it doesn't access a county road anywhere.
Yes.
And we can't answer to that.
No, I'm not expecting that
Okay,
at all.
all right.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you, Ernie.
That's about it. So speaking of CDOT, I sent you an invitation, Commissioner Candelaria. They are wanting to have a discussion on Road 37 up by Pewitt and Summit Reservoir, but in their last response to our 7 applications, everything's, they want the county to get access permits for every county road that intersects one of their highways. And I don't know if we need to get Attorney McLaren involved. I don't think we give them a half a breath at ever going that direction.
So that meeting is going to take place this afternoon. It's a Zoom meeting. Donna sent me the link. I think that you should probably sit in with me, because I did read it for that access up there on Summit Lake, that the gentleman that's wanting to do that, I guess it is a subdivision on that lower section.
Well, there's 100 houses in there, and back in the 70s, when they swapped the county road for a highway and the highway for a county road, they gave no second egress out of that whole area. So CDOT created their own problem back when they did all that, and right now, as it stands, we just tell every person that wants to build up there, you get approval from CDOT first.
And my understanding is that CDOT wants the county to become the permittee for all of this, and then make a sub-permittee process for all the subdivisions that would go in the future. The problem, as I see it, is if we become the permittee, then all the AC/DC lanes are on us to build.
They've already said that on Road 37.
Right. And
But
that-
they also said we need an access permit on Road L at 145, which doesn't exist because Road L connects to Alamosa, which is a city street. So they're just way overstepping everything.
Correct. And I did look at that last night. There, you're correct. There is a north turn lane and there is a south turn lane, both sides. One to go into the Elks and one to go back to the west. So, yeah, if you have time this
Absolutely,
afternoon.
yeah.
And I think they don't know what they're doing. They've got a new access permit person there, and
Basically, they want the county to correct their mistakes.
she has been there, I don't know, for a while, but the state access permit guy is pretty much overseeing everything down here, and if you're not here, you don't really get what's what, and I don't know how careful they're looking at a map. They're still working from home, so you're getting half information and bad comments, and all they're looking for are traffic counts because they don't want to do them. I mean, it's just like the meat packing plant. How do you do traffic counts on a business that's not open? I guess your traffic count's 0.
I don't know. We'll be there at that meeting also this afternoon. That's like a 2 or 3 o'clock meeting.
Right, because, I mean, we've never pulled an access permit on any county road. And I don't see that we need to.
Well, they tried to push us into an access permit on County Road 38, right?
38.5.
38.5. I remember that about a year ago.
And so I signed a waiver so that the subdivision applicant pulled it himself. But we don't want to get into that
No.
throughout the whole county, because, I mean, once you start, it'll never end. And then they'll say, oh, well, there's too much traffic now, you got to put in all the AC/DC turn lanes, everything. at every intersection. But we got the same comment at M and 491, which has anything and everything you're ever gonna have there versus, unless you go to a clover leaf, but we had the same response there, so it's just like, I guess that's their default position, that they're gonna have you pull an access permit and then it's open anytime they decide they want you to build something on their highways.
Okay, well, we'll have that conversation this afternoon, and we'll go from there. Maybe it's just because the new people don't know what's going on, or they're, I don't know. We'll
I
figure
don't
it out.
know either. We'll see.
Okay. All right, thank you, guys. Anything else?
That's it for us.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Okay, next on our agenda, we have the public comment session. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during the public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time. So this time, public comment session is open.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Kim, good morning.
Good morning.
Shaq.
Good morning, Alan.
It's another beautiful day here. Anyway, I want to address the County Commission. Friday evening, the Republican Party had the County Assembly at the Annex, and I do want to address an issue that I learned about yesterday morning, and so it's, I guess, on me to let the County Commission know that the Annex was left unlocked Friday evening. It wasn't cleaned up very well. I know I set up the arranged for the county annex to be used, but then things changed, and there was different persons with the control and responsibility for that annex Friday night, and so I think I got a call from the annex director, John Parker. He was not happy at all Monday morning. The people that came in Saturday morning had to clean up before they could have their event. And so my being here is just to say that I apologize for those folks that had to come in Saturday morning and see what they had to deal with. I take John Parker on his word that he was not at all pleased with those folks. And I will be addressing the executive committee tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully from that, the folks that had the event Saturday morning will get an apology for what they found. An apology to the annex director needs to be done. His message to me was that the Republican Party may have lost use of the annex because of that action, and my feeling is the responsibility doesn't need to be laid on whatever happened. Leaving the doors to the annex unlocked was the most irresponsible thing that I can think of. And I don't know when he said it was trashed. I hope it wasn't that somebody came in and did anything, but he didn't indicate that. But he wasn't willing to even take an apology over the phone. He said it was beyond that. Their damage deposit would not be returned. And so I guess my feeling is that I don't want that to happen to the Republican Party here in Montezuma County. I think the Republican Party is bigger than that and knows the responsibilities that involves in the community itself. The annex itself is something that is for the community, and I feel pretty bad about that as well. So that's my message here, and I forgot to give my name, Alan Mays, 21693 County Road 21. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mike Lynch. I live at 21730 Road S in Cortez. I'm here this morning to deliver some information. During this month, similar information is being delivered to counties, county commissioners around Colorado. This information is relevant to the upcoming election in 2022, as well as elections in 2021 and 2020. And whether you use the information that I'm providing to you this morning, or whether you obtain this same information from other sources, I believe that you are going to need this information in the coming weeks and months, because I believe that you will be called upon to take action based on this information. And I'm delivering the information in electronic form because it is quite voluminous. What I'm including this morning is a copy of the lawsuit by Ron Hanks et al. Against Jenna Griswold, the Colorado Secretary of State, filed November 19th of 2021 in Denver District Court. A copy of Colorado Election Rules 8 CCR 1505-1, Rule 21, Voting System Standards for Certification, adopted August 26th of 21. The Mesa County, Colorado Voting Systems Report Number 1 with forensic examination and analysis. I believe that was referred to in the lawsuit as evidence. The Mesa County, Colorado Voting Systems Report Number 2 Forensic Examination and Analysis Report, that was completed and published February 28th of this year. The Colorado Canvassing Report, results from 4 Colorado counties comprising 1.1 million plus voters. Implications for Colorado, that was published March 11th of this year, and I would suggest that you start with it. It's only 22 pages long. The Voting System Standards Volume 1, Performance Standards by the Federal Election Commission, dated April 2002, and the Voting System Standards Volume 2, Test Standards, also of April 2002 by the same commission. And so I've got 3 pen drives
Okay.
to deliver.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One for each of you. And I'll need a copy. That's for your document.
Take-
That's all right, I'll get a copy.
Okay. All right, next. Okay, seeing nothing else, we're going to move along. The public comment session is closed, and we're going to go to Ms. Frizzell. We have a liquor license renewal for the Gettin' Place.
Good morning. My
Good
name is
morning.
Jerry.
Good morning.
I'm from Montezuma County Clerk Recorders. I do liquor license renewal applications. This one is for Still Investments Incorporated, doing business as the Getting Place, located at 26060 Highway 491, Pleasant View, Colorado. And there has been no reports from the sheriff for any violations.
Questions?
I have none.
No? Okay.
I move to approve this renewal application for a retail liquor and fermented malt beverage license for Seal Investments Incorporated, the Getting Place, at 26060 Highway 491, Pleasant View, Colorado.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the retail liquor or fermented malt beverage license renewal application for Steel Investment Incorporated. doing business as the Gettin' Place, located at 26060 Highway 491, Pleasant View, Colorado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just give them to her. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have 12 Hours at Mesa Verde liquor request permission. Gentlemen, Cap Allen. I'll let you guys all introduce yourself. I know we all know you, but so the viewing audience knows who you are, if you would please introduce yourselves.
I'm Kirk Underwood.
Cap Allen,
Danny Gregory.
Okay,
and I would say we have another member of our board in the audience, Jay Balfour, who's your fire chief. We're from the board of the 12 Hours of Mesa Verde, and every year we come before you to ask permission under your regulations to give away a lot of free beer at our event. It sounds kind of like a loose situation. It really isn't. We have beer in the amount donated to us from a couple of local breweries and from a brewery in Durango that really just amounts to about 1 can or 1 glass per person, you know, in terms of the number of people we have signed up. But nevertheless, we need to go through the formality of making sure we can do that. We obtain the beer free. We give it away free, so there's no money changes hands in the operation. It stays in the fairgrounds, which we rent from you. And so far, I don't know the number of years, it's less than 10. We've been doing this for 6 or 7 or 8 years, I think, and we haven't had any problems to date. The other reason we like to sit in front of you every year like this is we like to say thank you very much for having just a really stellar location to be able to hold this event. It's a good event for the community. Danny can tell you, I think we're somewhat over 900 racers this year.
Yeah, we should be over 900 this year.
And I'd like to take this opportunity to reciprocate that gratitude for the donations that the board makes to the youth in our county.
I think this past year, we gave away over $70,000. We're sneaking up now, and we always kind of snicker about what the amount is, but we're sneaking up on $1 million to the community in the lifetime of this event, and we'll get there. Nobody takes a cent out of it. I had to buy this coat. You know, we're total volunteers, and I think the keystone of the whole operation is being able to rent the fairgrounds, have your staff there. I mean, where in the world can you have paid staff at your beck and call on the weekend to help you out? We need something, we just get on the phone and we get it. And we just think that's spectacular, and we want to compliment you for that. But back to the business at hand, we need to make sure we get permission to do the beer thing.
okay. Well, I'd like to make a statement also, kind of like what Shaq alluded to. You know, it's a way that we can give back to our community, and not only just for the day or the 2 days that the people are out there, but that's a substantial amount of money that goes back to the kids in this community. I don't know any other event or fundraiser within this community that gives $60,000, $70,000 a year back into this community, and I think it's a...
And I'd like to point out that even in 2020, when they didn't hold the race, they still gave $40,000 to the kids.
Correct. So, good job. Thank you, guys. So now we'll take care of the business at hand, unless, gentlemen, you guys have
No, these folks bring a lot of people in from almost around the world now, and give us a lot of exposure here, and it's always a good, clean event, run very well. So I move we give these folks permission to have...
Give away.
Yeah, to give away beer at the fairgrounds.
So really what we're approving is a special event liquor license
Okay.
for 12 Hours of Mesa Verde.
As amended.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to grant the permission for a liquor license.
Special event liquor
Special
li-
event liquor license for the 12 Hours of Mesa Verde. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Best
Thank you
wishes.
very much.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
so much.
And I do hear that we are going to have a new team this year. We're trying to talk Commissioner
It's up to
Copenhaver
you.
into
We-
competing with us.
The county commissioner team is probably the most important team out there.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but
You guys have an inside, but just so you know, the event did sell out, but we've got a space set aside if you decide.
well, we're not really
Raise.
competitors or contenders. We are just kind of there.
We just like having you guys out there because it's good exposure for you to see the event, and I think you get to hear some of the feedback from the folks that are at the event, and everyone's thrilled with the facility and the event, and it is just really great for the community, not just for that day, but for the weekend, and it spills out all throughout the year, I think.
It does, I agree.
I
Okay.
told Jim I'd come if I can bring my horse.
And we said that on the sweep, I thought it would be a great application of a sweep on a horse for the last event. So Commissioner Copenhaver said he had an extra horse. I would be more than happy to do the last sweep with you guys on a horse, if it's accessible. And I'll also do a sweep in the middle of the day on a bike. So whatever you choose.
I think any color we can add has got to do with you folks.
So you might see two of us at the end of the race doing a sweep.
If I may too add that this year's theme is Blazing Saddles, I believe, so that would be most appropriate.
There you go.
It's all just work.
Go for it, whatever you want to do.
So just to let you know that if you're willing to accept that, you may get two more guys doing the sweep on a horseback.
So, Commissioner, Ian said he'd borrow my bike and do a couple of laps with you and see if he feels like he could participate in the race, since I'm kind of out at this point.
We'll talk about that outside the presence of the public.
Hey, there's plenty of room under the bus, just behave.
There's no rule you have to do 12 hours.
That's correct.
One lap each is fine.
That was 12 hours for me last year.
No, it wasn't.
It depends on how many people are toppled in front of me is how long it takes me to get through, because I don't ride by anybody. But it does. I might get through once, and that's all I need to do.
That's
Anyway,
okay.
thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank
We
you
do
very
have
much.
plenty of volunteer opportunities as well, so if you decide you don't want to ride, but you'd like to come out and hang out, there's always room for that too. And it's May 7th is the date. Thanks, guys.
Got it, thank you guys. Okay, George, you're on top. Before you have to leave, we'll bring you right up. Our coroner, George Devers.
You don't look like George.
Your coffee cup.
I believe it's on, yes. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I haven't been here for a while I have been here, but I haven't had time to get some of the stats put together from last year. I finally had a couple of minutes to get a couple things pulled up. You can show the cases. I try to break it down per month. I try to keep track of that just to see, how everything stays going through the year. And per month-wise, numbers as far as busy months and slow months kind of stay the same. This year, December blew me out of the water, or last year, I guess it was. That was a new record month for total numbers, plus total numbers for the year. And then going by days of the week, that did change a little bit. The last 5 years, Monday has always been the busiest day for some reason. I think it's because people have to go back to work and they'll do anything other than have to go to work. But this year, Wednesday was the busiest day of the year. And then times, I have it broke down in times. You can see that it's all the way around the clock. 4 o'clock in the morning has usually been the slowest time, but this year it didn't quite run that way. For some reason, 10 p.m. was. Actually, no, 4 a.m. was still consistent with it. But totals for the year, the bigger things, motor vehicle accidents were 17. Suicides, I had 19, and overdoses had 8. This year, I'm still running about the same. Right now, we're at 39 cases for the year, so I'm running same as last year, high. We've had 2 motor vehicle accidents, we've had 5 overdoses, and 2 suicides. And we've been busy with autopsies. After today, we'll have done 50 autopsies so far this year in our facility. Not all of them are ours, 15 of them are ours. So our number of autopsies are going up. We have had 3 looking at our 4th homicide for the year, which is crazy. Usually we average 2, so I'm not sure what's going on, but it's not good. And number of young deaths has been crazy. I went almost 2 weeks with a lot of deaths, and not one of them was over the age of 40. And we've had a lot of kids in the last 4 months. I'm not liking that, but hopefully things will slow down and ages will change and get back to where you get old, where you finally turn it up. So, do you guys have any questions for me? No?
Not really. We are talking about the Senate Bill 22065, and I'm sure you're probably following that bill also, of how that's going to affect us here in this county. The way I understand the bill, it's permissive. It's only for Category 1 and 2 counties. Is that how you understand it? In Category 3 and 4 counties?
Well, it has to be agreed upon by the commissioners to go 3 and 4. So if it's a full-time position, you guys have to agree with me that yes, it is a full-time position, and for it to, I guess, to go through, so.
Right, so it'll be back to the counties, and it won't be a law other than just for the Category 1 and 2 counties?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. That's all I had.
Okay, and then I was unable to make the workshop yesterday. Do I have a second to speak on that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Coming from my board of directors, they're not really in favor of that. The reason behind it is our fire district, well, every fire district has a mill levy. And they were thinking, and I'm not sure if that's correct, but almost every fire district in Montezuma County has had a mill levy increase last 5 to 6 years. And if we do this and it rides on the shirt tails of fire departments and stuff, that we think that it might hurt our chances in the future of getting money. Our district is good enough to, whenever we asked for one, we got it. And we ride a lot with Kinder Morgan's funding. So if they really continue to lose, CO2, or if they leave the country, we're going to be in trouble. And that little bit of money that we'd be getting off of the public safety tax, it wouldn't be enough to keep us going. But if they're already paying their mill levy increase, and then they're also paying a public safety tax that they believe is going to be going to the fire departments, along with the ones in their district and out, we think that would hurt our chances of getting another mill levy increase on top of it. So it'd just be another tax going back to the people that live in that district.
Okay. Question?
No, it's a good point, George.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
You guys have a great day.
all right, thank you,
Thanks,
George.
George.
Okay, Sheriff, you're next.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I hope this is right, because it's not saying BOCC, so I don't know. It showed Samsung. I don't know why it's not doing that. Is that what it's supposed to do, Shaq?
Yeah, it should allow you to press Windows and K and then connect.
Mikey, I swear. We had this problem last time, didn't we?
We can do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
We do have a cord.
Oh, yeah, I
We do have
can't
a cord
keep
up here.
up with it. Well, that's true, we could give them the cord. Something get
Wi-Fi's
disconnected
on.
from station 2.
I went to connect.
We didn't touch
It
anything.
says it's connecting, and it's not doing anything. Okay, what happened?
So much for that. I didn't kick nothing.
There might be a cord here.
What's happening?
This was the cord we used to use all the time.
Yeah.
Is this the cord you used to use?
We would need to plug the cord into one of the stations.
Oh, that's too short.
Which one's he need?
Maybe Kim's got a better one.
This is connected to the computer. That's your computer.
Right. This one is. But I don't know what this one is.
Shaq, do you have the numbers on your computer? You can go ahead and just pull them up for him and put them on the screen.
I sent it to you in an email, Shaq.
I've got them, I just can't keep up with
Okay.
it. This is this one.
Oh.
We can just go that way.
I got one of this too.
Now it won't even let us in. All right, what's going on in this building? All right.
Could it be Satan?
Here comes our
Here
hero.
he comes to save the day. We could use this.
Yeah, we could. I didn't touch nothing. Should be up and running. Let's unplug it. See what we. Oh.
Just this one.
Due to technical difficulties.
This one goes to my line.
So just use it the old-fashioned way? Just connect that cable? That's what we used to do a long time ago.
Is that station 3, Isaac?
maybe.
That is Station 3.
Okay.
Look at that.
That's what happens when you just scroll to the bottom, Sheriff, and click, I have read and agree to the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
When dang good and well, nobody has.
Yeah, right, yeah. Now what happened to it?
You touched it.
Oh, my. What'd you guys do now?
See, I told you, don't touch it, you'll break it.
You're the presenter, not us.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Wow, look at that.
Don't touch
Why
it.
don't you just stay in the room, Isaac?
Don't look at it. Don't look at it.
It's like the rabbit ears we had on my parents' television. I had to stand there and just right for us to get reception.
Okay. If you say so.
That's what
All
I'm
right.
saying.
Now that we're started here, you asked me last week for some figures, so we've got together with the fan staff and others and really went through things, just looking at what critical or priority needs would be, and nothing more. As far as looking at the entire sheriff's office, including the detention center, I've just included that information. So as far as the jail expansion project, there's just not enough time to give you any closer figures than this. This is just a guess. For having an additional 2 pods, one for male, one for female, as well as 5 additional holding cells, this could cost anywhere between $2 and $5 million. It could. That is if there's going to be additions onto the existing detention center now. With that comes along additional FTEs, 5 additional deputies and 1 supervisor to continue with that increased population of those cells and inmates. 2 additional court securities, because we know that now that the courts are back open and doing more trials and sentences, we're getting more inmates being sentenced and incarcerated in the detention facility.
Sheriff, is there a chance that the court security grant would help offset that?
You know, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I was going to get to that.
Okay.
The thing is that I have asked for 4 court security deputies to be paid out of the state judicial grant for, and they always only will supply and pay for 2. So we pay for 2, they pay for 2.
And the state does require us to provide the security at the court.
It requires the sheriff, yes.
But they only pay a
security.
portion of it, so that's
Yeah.
like a half-funded mandate.
I know. So, and again, we're also required under state statute for pretrial services. So when that bill came about a couple years ago, there was supposed to be additional funding for sheriff's offices with pretrial. But what they did was that those that already had pretrial services were excluded from applying for state funding. So we don't get any additional dollars for anything with pretrial. Things have got to change, but you know what? We just need to have changes in Denver in order for things to happen that way. But this is just the reality. These were estimated guess for those costs. As far as the future, this is not something that has to happen within the next year or 2 even. Just looking down the road, you're looking at additional 5 FTEs and 1 supervisor. 8 new FTEs would bring us up to staffing levels that are recommended for counties of our population size. Probably Morgan County is closest to where we're at, population-wise and everything else. They have more than we do. So that's what we went with. We went by the state standard also. We presented that to you a couple years ago. So That's just something to throw out there, that those are going to be additional down the road. As far as trying to increase our drug task force, we're looking at 2 additional FTEs, detectives, for that, to expand that. I'm also working on a local regional task force that will include BIA, state and federal as well, to help augment that. But right now, the Cortez Police Department and the Montezuma County Sheriff's Office have 1 each. They've been doing a lot of that work. We need to increase that because of our situation, our problem is increasing. As far as equipment and training, if you look
Actually,
at...
let me hold you there for a minute,
Oh,
Steve,
I'm sorry.
because, I mean, are 2 more really, is that all we need on that task force?
What's that?
Is 2 more FTEs, is that really all we need, or?
On the sheriff's side, yes.
Okay.
Not looking at overall.
Overall,
I'm
but-
looking at from the sheriff's side,
Okay.
2 additional to add to that. Yeah. I'm hoping that I can get Cortez Police to addition for 2 to match that. It's a possibility, I don't know. But I only can count on what we can do. That's where I go
Right.
for.
Okay.
12 new vehicles down the road within the next few years because of additional FTEs. The equipment and training for new additional FTEs is in there. It's roughly about $10,000 for training equipment and everything that goes with that. Detention salaries and, of course, the operation salaries would increase with that within the next couple of years down the road, if that is a possibility. None of this is set in stone, so understand that these are just estimated critical needs that, cost-wise, what could happen. So looking at 18 additional FTEs down the road, you're looking at just about $1 million. 12 new vehicles, equipment and training, $200,000. General salaries up to about $245,000, and combined total about $2 million. This does not include, again, the estimated cost for the jail expansion. If we look at the possibility of relocating the sheriff's office and remodeling the existing sheriff's office building to expand the county jail, that would save considerably. Just something to think about. There are other things. You've been pretty good about, we worked together and we really got that long-term evidence storage building in the corners and the morgue section and our secured evidence yard and whatnot. I tell you, there are some things to think about. So if we think outside the box and keep an open mind and look and take a look and to discuss, that's a possibility. It could save a lot. So, okay.
I think that's why we're having the conversations, just like when we were researching that evidence building and we came up with that.
You bet.
It was a lot better.
That was the
and it
best
was
thing that could have ever happened. And I'll tell you,
a lot less
I
money.
appreciate that as the sheriff, and I'll tell you what, all of us do. It was great. It's worked out well, and it's just what we need, and it helps. So, and you know, and that I'm looking at where you can combine not only the sheriff's office and the coroner's office and the emergency operations center, emergency manager's office, and the district attorney's office, all in one building. That would be ideal. Okay, and that could save a lot of money down the road. So, things to think about. Okay. Questions?
Not at this point in time.
None. Thank you for the numbers.
You bet. Sorry about the problems here. So, God, you do. Okay, I'll send that to you. Okay, so you have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Just in case anybody else needs that.
Okay, there we go. Thanks, sir.
Okay, Mr. Spratland, you're next, emergency management. I think we all saw his numbers too, didn't we? They were
Yeah.
sent out in the packet.
Yep.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Morning, Ms. Kim. Morning, Ian. Morning, Mr. Shack.
Good morning, sunshine.
Another fine day in the oil patch, I used to say. So, you got my sit report.
Yep.
And I know that all of you read it a couple times, right? Late at night?
Just once.
Oh, okay. So the highlights, pretty much, we're back to the drought. I just looked at the National Weather Report, and that nice dark red line is missing, but the extreme line is right across Montezuma County. And it's doesn't look good for the predictions that are coming up. I got the latest on the COVID and all the hospitals in there for you. So, and then the water updates. I mean, we are filling with some water, so that's good. Any questions on that report before I move forward? We got a couple other things to talk about. Good to go?
I have none.
So, sales tax. I sent you my wonderful expensive sales tax. So with that, I was going to also add in there, or we can subtract from it, but you can see in there when I started getting up into the expensive range, the first year is 4.6 million, and that deals with communication towers. Those are 800 to 1 million apiece. And two of them, right off the bat, is what I'm looking for. We're looking at also some repeaters and building and related equipment. 200,000 for that. Most counties have a communication mobile trailer or a vehicle that we can travel with and set up our own ComL in case anything happens. So that was thrown in there as well. Part of that radio equipment can include the drone that we fly that has specific aerial antennas that we might need, et cetera, et cetera. I also put in there both my FTE position and a coordinator's position so that we can start that succession planning. And that would, the first year, of course, all of this comes into play. The towers can be anywhere from the first year to like 4 years into it, depending on locations and where we go. So after that, the yearly cost of emergency management would be around $274,000 a year, ongoing cost. And then if we sunshine this, then we'd either have to pick that up or go back the way we were, or get more grants, I would imagine. But the coordinator's position would be nice to have in there as well. And the other thing that I didn't add to this that I think is a major point is broadband for public safety. That's a big deal. And I think some of the money should go towards that. I mean, even if we take off, if we have redundant systems, we'll have microwave hookups for our communication towers, but broadband's the only way to go. That fiber hookup to the towers will make a big difference in our communication for public safety. So I'd like to see that thrown in the mix somewhere as well.
So when I was looking at this, the towers, which are super spendy, where do you have, question number one is, where do you have a location identified, or have you gotten that far?
So there's like 4 different locations we're working with, and I was working with Chief Zion. We drove 145 is our issue, all up in there. And that's really difficult to serve.
Right.
I mean, you could put $1 million tower in and it covers for 2 miles, that's it. So we have to get the height and we have to get the proper location to be able to connect, probably with fiber or microwave hop all the way to Cortez so we can talk. And I've located 2 areas. I've got the third one sent into the state to try to determine whether that's going to work or not to dispatch. And then along with that, we're utilizing the smaller repeaters, the 8-tacks, which are 20,000 a pop. If I have a tower, if I use existing smaller cell phone towers and use solar for those, and we're gonna hop those around as well. So it's gonna be a combination of VHF and 800 as well. And then the other location is McElmo. That's another fun location that we can't get out. It's a hole, and it's pretty dangerous down in there, so.
So we lose communication on both canyons?
Yep.
G Road and then up 145?
It's on and off. Goodman kind of helps us a little, but not real great on McElmo. The Dolores Tower on and off on 145. We don't have anything up in Rico either. We have down in Rico, but not necessarily for that whole area. Norwood, et cetera. So, yeah, that's a heck of a project. I mean, I've been looking at this for like 15 years. And now we're finally moving ahead on some of these projects. I got some grant funding for some small repeaters coming in, and we're going to start playing with them, start sticking them where we need to put them. And that may be the answer too. 10, 12 small repeaters VHF versus that's 800, because the connectivity in those canyons is just almost impossible sometimes. So,
okay,
it's kind of what I'm playing with. So you have my write-up on that. And then, you're on. Our generator. Money. That's already allotted. Yeah. So, here.
Thank you, Dustin.
So we took your lead. We were able to locate a used generator with only 66 hours on it, I think.
Yeah.
It runs really well. It was tested out by the gang last week. Yeah. And runs great. We talked with the electrician. It looks like everything's going to plug in well. And what's interesting is that it's a used generator, and the grant funding from FEMA won't allow us to buy it. We have to buy a new one. So instead of buying a new one, we're going to use one that's used only 66 hours. It's going to work just fine, and we're going to save. If we were to go with the grant, we would have to pay around $45,000 to $50,000 to match the grant. Without matching the grant, now we're only going to have to pay $23,000. So we're not playing with the FEMA grant on this round. We may do that at the end of the year, depending on the other generators that might come in. And if not, we'll start next year with the BRIC grant, is what we're, actually it's the Homeland Security Grant Program, HMP, sorry, Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And we're already in our hazard mitigation plan for generators, so that was the grant we were going to use. We're not going to use it this year. It'll be next year.
So that the commissioners know, we did budget 30,000 in the capital line item for generators.
Right.
However, you're saying 28,000. How much is the concrete work going to be to put that generator
There
in?
is no concrete work.
Okay.
It'll sit right beside our shed outside and back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's ready to go. The amount you see in front of you is $23,889. And that's what we're asking you guys to allow us to spend that money. Take it out of the $30,000 that's already in capital budgeted for this. And
so then that'll energize this entire building in the case
Correct.
of an emergency, so we have no failures of power, and it's all back on a back.
yes, the only thing is Jerry was looking at the circuit breakers.
The only thing that will not be powered up would be the HVAC system in this building, but everything else would.
Everything else.
The server room, we'll keep that air conditioner running because it's vital to keep the server room.
Correct.
But
So the critical, I guess, not every circuit would be energized, every critical circuit would be energized.
Well, we planned on everything, and looking at the power load on a normal run, it'll be fine. It's when we load it with every single thing, all the little heaters in everybody's rooms and all that, it might trip a couple breakers. But I think we're fine. Jerry's gonna wire this thing up, or whoever we get, sorry, when we put the
Jim.
RFP out.
What fuel source will the generator use?
Propane.
Propane.
And
That's what it says on here.
have we priced out propane tanks?
Yep, it's all here. Did you get this?
So is that an underground tank, I assume?
It's above ground. And they
I-
said they can set it right there by the curb back there.
As far as security reasons, though, wouldn't it be better to put an underground tank? I mean, somebody could, in the event of an emergency, somebody could shoot that, and then you lose all of your ability to then generate the power. It's just a question. I mean, that's a huge exposure in an emergency that it could be taken out. Somebody could run a car through it.
We got the barriers for the cars, but I think
Yeah, we can price, I can go back and price that. as-
We might look at it through FEMA to see, because I think most of those should be underground. That way they're not exposed to any, I mean, you can't run a car into it. The fuel's going to be constant to the generator. The bollards obviously would be for the generators, but just something to look into. I'm not sure what they require, but I'm not sure an above-ground tank would be, unless it's natural gas, that it would be adequate. Which, natural gas, unless there is a explosion on a pipeline, is a more patent service for it also, because if somebody can't get to it to fill the tank, you run out of 500 gallons and then you're empty also. So
I mean,
most of the generators that we put on our firehouses were all typically run with natural gas.
And it is set up for natural gas right at the moment.
So you might, I know there's probably not a natural gas. This
This building does not have any natural gas.
I think it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other, natural gas, and then we lose natural gas, and or propane. The Ignacio plant doesn't have any more, and we can't fill it, every other day or every day, so I think it's the balance on that.
What is the runtime on 500 gallons?
It was
23, 20,
I think it was 28 hours.
So basically a 24-hour period. We could go a 24-hour period with one tank of fuel.
depending on the load, that's a full load.
That was at full load.
Correct. So
So a couple days.
a couple days probably
Yeah,
without a full load.
we have it set up with the contract, to get it filled, so. That's a thought, if we go underground, the cost will go up, but we've got up to 30,000 in that capital fund, so.
Check with Atmos to see what it costs to run natural gas. I mean, it's close.
We've got to at least be in the alleyway, right? Or in the street?
Annex to the museum
Yeah.
used to have it. The meter's gone right now, but,
So it's close.
so it should be probably in the alleyway.
I mean, before we approve this, or before I think I'm comfortable, I think we should at least check with the natural gas and/or an underground tank, just so that we don't have one more exposure during a case of an emergency.
We can do that, yeah. Yeah, and I've already told them
Yeah.
we're pretty much gonna secure that generator. We'll use our procurement policy, but this is like sole source, because it's used, and we'll just, we'll cut them a check, but that'll be, as soon as we get approval from you guys. So we'll check on that and get back with you, I don't know, a couple weeks, or next week.
Get back to us next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't be around.
It's not
but-
going to take that long to get with Atmos to figure out where your closest line is, to figure out what it takes to get here.
Right.
And with,
I'm just
No,
questioning.
I
gentlemen,
agree. This is, I think
and
natural
would
gas
that
would be a better
what
way
you'd
to
rather
go.
do, would be natural gas?
My preference would be natural gas, because unless there is an absolute, some kind of an explosion on a gas line, it's not going to run out, and it's constant. We're not looking at a 24-hour period if everything is on that we have to resupply it, because, so all of the tabletop exercises that I've been in, I mean, it's a tank is shot, or a truck is turned over, or they give you all of these parameters to work within, and then you have to fill in all the blanks. So those are some of the things that we talked about after our incident reviews. And, I mean, anything above ground is, well, we can take these guys out in 24 hours, let's just get rid of the tank. So just thoughts, food for thought, I'm not.
Yeah,
if
one
we're
of my
gonna do it-
concerns is that if we lose power and Atmos loses power and all those transfer stations and pump stations, if they can keep the pressure up, we're good to go. If they can't, then we're in trouble too, so.
Just look
But
at the
we'll-
differences and see what's
We'll check with them.
the best.
Yeah.
It could be a propane tank with underground, I don't know.
Or
I'm just-
they may have a generator to set up for their pumps too. I never looked at that yet, but I know very few people have their generators set up for like sanitation and water treatment plants, et cetera, so. But yeah, I'll get with them. We'll get with them. We'll let you know.
Okay, and we can put you on under unfinished business, so don't, yeah, if you're ready next week, come back.
Okay.
And I do know that, because I looked it up, we do have the $30,000 that we budgeted for this, to make
Right.
sure we take care of this administration building.
Good, good. All right.
Questions, commissioners?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I'd also like you, I should probably say this before the DA gets here, to look into mechanical generators, and we could run them from the jail, and they could be powered by those found guilty of distribution of fentanyl, crimes against children, or sexual assault. Just my thoughts.
Isn't that illegal? That's right.
Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, the DA is not available yet, so we're going to move down to the CFPD, Mr. Balfour. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
How are you, gentlemen?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
Appreciate the opportunity to come before you today to make a presentation. This one, a lot of the slides here, I believe Commissioners Lindsay and Candelaria, you've seen that before. I'm not sure if Commissioner Copenhafer was here the day we presented this or not, but we'll run through the ones that are the same fairly quickly, and then we'll discuss the ones that are new. As we know, the fire district, or the fire department, was first organized in 1886 and then became formally recognized in 1910 through the city of Cortez. The city of Cortez funded the fire department up until 1986. And when the district was formed, the district covers 163. You see both numbers, 162, 163, so right there. And then the funds come from the mill levy on taxes, which our current mill levy is 11.25. We're a high mill, and that's partially because the funding for us is just not there to meet the needs. And so the last time we received a mill increase, I believe, was 2012 or 14. I wasn't super involved with the department then. And so you can see where the calls have gone from 2000 up through 2021. We run out of one station with 5 personnel, 3 on the engine, 2 on the rescue. We have 2 Type 1 engines, structural engines, 3 Type 6 or brush trucks, 1 Type 3 engine, the wildland urban interface engine, and I'll add real quickly here that Type 3 urban interface engine and the Type 6 actually bailed us out last year. We ended up in the black, fortunately, because of our wildland income to the tune of $200,000 that bailed us out. We would have had a deficit and had to pull out of reserve funds. And our current reserve fund balance is only $700,000. We're probably the lowest reserve fund of any fire district in the county right now. We have 1 ladder truck, as you can see here, the lower left, 1997 brush truck, a 1998 engine, and a 1991 tender. As we can see, these are well over 20 years old. The national standard is 20 years, but more importantly, what we're recognizing is when we use these trucks a lot, and they are frontline trucks, if you will. The engine in the upper right is somewhat of a reserve, but at Station 3. But when our primary engine, which is at Station 1, is out for repairs or something else, then we have to put that one in service. And we recognize a lot of repair and maintenance costs. They go up significantly. We've seen that happen specifically with the 91 tender and then the 97 brush truck, that diesel standard transmission. I believe we just put $2,000 into the motor on it to get it up and running. Next slide, please. Calls for service, all hazard, all risk. We respond to as all fire districts in the county and pretty much throughout the country respond to fires, emergency medical service calls, hazmat, technical rescue, public service, where we go assist, put a smoke detector in, check for carbon monoxide, help mount a carbon monoxide monitor, help somebody that is fallen, whatever. Assist other agencies, and we also provide mutual aid to our public safety partners throughout the county, and we also receive mutual aid from them. Last year, I believe that was a tune of about a dozen each where we received and where we gave mutual aid. You can see the other services we provide, first aid classes, blood pressure, fire safety education, how many students we presented to, and that's just in our district, that's not countywide. Smoke detector installs, fire extinguisher training, controlled burn assistance, and address signs. We're currently, firefighters, some of the busiest in the state, running an average of 181 calls per firefighter per year. Actually, that's very, very conservative. We're actually up over 200. However, our firefighters are some of the lowest paid, and we'll see that here in a moment. Current budget is 1.69. That is an accurate number for this year's budget. Doesn't include any other income from all the classes we do. That's just straight from mill levy. And it has to cover wages, benefits, insurance, and that accounts for about 85% of the budget. And so the remainder of the budget is spent for operations, maintenance, fuel, et cetera. And as we know, fuel costs are going up this year significantly. Next slide, please. Where similar departments are at, and here's the statistics. So the first column you'll see there, upper column is from Cortez. These are all from 2020 statistics. You can see the cost per call. If you look at that cost per call, that'll give you an idea of where we are at in the grand scheme of things. And as I stated last time we were here, yeah, we're the cheapest game in town, but also that can be extremely detrimental, and that's right where we're at right now. And we've got actually 5 units that are over 20 years of age and aging, and repair and maintenance costs are going up. And as we'll see in a moment what the cost is to replace those units. It's not like going down and buying a car. Fire apparatus are extremely expensive. So, and our reserve capital fund is basically non-existent. So we can see that our firefighters, as we said, the average is $41,000 for a firefighter, and most of our folks haven't hit that because we've got a really young group of people. You can see where some of the budgets are. That 155 is a little bit off there, 169 as we showed on an earlier slide. To some of these other departments, if you look at just the call volume and their square miles of district, and then what their budgets are, the only one that's really comparable to the two on number 5 and 6, where they have an $800,000 budget, but their call volume is lower and their square miles are only 2.5 square miles, so they're not driving very far. And then the other one in central Colorado, where they're 1,000 calls, and they've got a 17 square mile area that covers, and they have a $1.5 million budget. So a lot of ours is really the number of calls, the staffing, the square miles, and the budget really are the ones that correlate into where we're seeing a significant deficit for providing services, or potential significant deficit for providing services. Next slide, please. What we need is to get our equipment, primarily our apparatus, up to industry standard and replace the aging fleet, improve our staffing levels, and improve our wages. Our current firefighters start at $12.94 an hour, and our lieutenants are making, which they're responsible for a 5-person crew, they're making about $17.50 an hour. So, in my opinion, that's a pretty dismal wage, pretty poor, but honestly, it's the best that we can do right now. We're working on some other things to try and get them up a couple cents an hour, which hopefully that'll help. And then also, we would like to make sure that our employees are trained to the highest level possible. With that, we'd like to get our folks out to, or bring somebody in to provide hazmat technician level training and technical rescue training for all our employees. We have a few people or a couple people, pardon me, that are technician level trained in hazmat, and a couple people in rope rescue, high angle rescue, confined space that are technician level, but we'd like to get all of our full-time employees. Cortez Fire District, as we said, in need of funding, and we would like to hopefully see this happen through a public safety sales tax. For us, this can make a big difference if we balance the proportions out throughout the fire districts in the county based off of the call volume, which I think is really the one element. And Chief Zion, I'd love for him to speak about that if at the end of our discussion or presentation, to articulate his opinion on that as well. Next slide, please. Why the sales tax? It gets spread out throughout the community, throughout the people that come to visit our community, the people that access our services, and not just for the property owners in the county. And the fact is that the budgets of the 5 fire districts in Montezuma County are very different. And as far as if you base it out on call volume and what the budgets are, extreme difference there. So it's going to be one of those things where the chiefs are going to have to sit down and have a conversation and see where we can land on this thing. Quite frankly, I don't know what the answer is if we have, one fire district that wants to opt out and the other 4 want to opt in, or 3 and 2, whatever. I don't know. We'll probably have to sit down and have some conversation, which we will do before we come back to the 3rd Tuesday in
April?
April, is that what we're planning for? Is that what I heard?
Well, that's when public safety is again.
Right, that would be this is public safety, that would be the next public safety talks.
Is that when you want us to make our next presentation? Is that what we talked, or was it 3 weeks? I wasn't sure if we were talking.
Yesterday, Chairman Candelaria had asked for budgets within 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
Three
okay.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have to know collectively everything that we have to look at
Sure.
to even put a number to it.
Okay. As we know, a lot of tourism attraction in that. We just feel like it's the better way to go to distribute that. And we tried in 2019 for a mill levy increase, and we were shot down rather convincingly. And I think there's some folks in this room that helped campaign against that mill levy increase, which is fine. It is what it is, and we tried, but we were defeated handily. And I think our district people are not in favor of voting for a mill levy increase to support the fire district. It just is what it is. So the sales tax for us is really our only option right now. Next slide, please. Benefits everyone in Montezuma County and goes to help out with, as we said earlier, increased staffing and provide for capital improvement plan to replace our equipment. Next slide. As we here we talk about what the cost is for the equipment. To replace 2 brush trucks, and we didn't just spitball these. These are numbers that we've got within the last couple of weeks from.
In the last week.
Yeah.
Within the last week, last Thursday.
Lieutenant Spencer was able to call. We've contacted several different manufacturers, and these are consistent numbers through the manufacturers. They're going to vary. You can figure that on a $1 million ladder truck, you can estimate through 5 different vendors that you're going to probably be 100,000 lower and 100,000 higher just for a standard ladder truck. But all the vendors are telling us you better start at $1 million and then. So for a tender, $400,000 for a tender. $700,000 is the starting point for the engine. I think we actually received a $650,000 to $700,000 from a couple of the vendors, and the other ones were $700,000. So, like I said, at $25,000 to $30,000 a year for capital, it's going to take us a long time to replace that equipment, and quite frankly, it's not even feasible to consider trying to replace it over the next 20 years on trucks that are already 20 years old. We'll never get there. We need to do a little bit of an addition on Station 3 to accommodate the additional staffing out there. Reason we say Station 3 is that's where we've seen our call volume increase, is to the northeast part and eastern side of our district, and approximate cost for that building addition is $500,000. Next slide, please. Do you have any questions? I plan to come, obviously, when we bring the numbers to you. I've got budget numbers for the wages and benefits, and just really a full-on where our budget is for 2022 and what we're proposing, for a budget in 2023 or 2024, whenever we could get this moving. If in fact we do a public safety sales tax and if it's successful.
Okay, I think, like you said, Commissioner Lindsay and I have seen this, so I'm going to open it up for Commissioner Copenaper. Do you have any questions or comments for them?
What did you say your mill levy is now?
11.25.
11.25.
And I believe we're one of the highest mills in the county, and that brings in that 1.69. And I've got tax sheets from the assessor's office here, if anybody would like to look at those.
I don't really have any other questions right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
I do have one letter I'll give to the administrator for the commissioners. Can be presented at a later date, but it's from our fireworks team. And we've sent out letters, we're handing out letters this week for the fireworks team to provide the 4th of July show this year in Cortez. And we're just seeking donations to help support that purchase of the fireworks, and also replacement of a couple of the fiberglass tubes that the fireworks go into. As you may be aware or not aware, that retired Commissioner Urtel has retired from the fireworks, producing the fireworks that he did for several decades. And so the Cortez Fire District, we have a 3-person team heading that up: Lieutenant Jeter, Engineer Rogers, and Firefighter Kroon, that are heading that up. And they actually went out to Lake Havasu 2 weeks ago, and were escorted out there by retired Commissioner Urtel to basically show them the ropes and that. And they got a lot of good training, and so they've got some plans for the synchronized show with music, so they'll be talking to one of the radio stations possibly to do that, also with some speakers on site to be able to provide a little higher degree of entertainment for Independence Day.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you,
today.
guys. Okay, I still do not see Chief Zion, did you want to come up and talk about anything either Chief Balfour alluded to?
I think you covered most of it.
Okay.
I kind of agree that some of the burden needs to go on the general public about all of the landowners.
Okay, all right, thank you. The DA is still not in the room, so we're gonna go into unfinished business. Shaq, let me look at my notes here, but I don't think we have any
I don't
unfinished
believe
business.
that we have any at this point. We could go into the attorney report, and then James Dietrich is out today, so we'll not have his report.
Okay, well then we'll go right into you, Ian, and we'll start with your report.
Not a lot to report this week. We do have a court hearing on Friday for a default judgment in our land use case, so that's set for Friday. The brief for the Road 41 Weber Canyon Road is due to the Court of Appeals at the end of the month. The insurance company's attorney is looking over that, and so we'll get that finalized and filed. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay, very good. James Dietrich is out this week, so Shaq, let's go to you.
So one thing that I wasn't able to get in your packet in time, but each year we have to do a cost allocation plan. And what that is several of our departments or branches of the state and the county ends up paying indirect services such as IT, maintenance, et cetera, for state-funded programs such as social services, public health, and the like. And so by doing a cost allocation plan, we're able to submit that to the state and get money back for those indirect services. And MGC, Michelle Garrett Consultants, has done it the last year, and by switching to them, we were able to actually increase our revenue back from the state fivefold. And so if the commissioners would approve to use MGT Consultants again for our cost allocation plan, I could get that taken care of.
Okay.
And Kim has that there. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
I would move we approve the master engagement agreement between MGT of American Consulting and the Montezuma County Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we accept the master engagement agreement by and between MGT of American Consulting, LLC, and Montezuma County Board of Commissioners. Any discussion, gentlemen? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners. And then the different municipalities and that supply water in the county met next week, along with our county departments that are involved in drought mitigation, such as the landfill, noxious weed department, the extension office, and natural resources. And we're going to be working at Chairman Candelaria's direction. Last year, we put out a WaterWise series to help educate on what we're doing and what others can do to help mitigate against the drought. And we're going to start on that project again in the next 2 weeks, and we're hoping to have an overall of 12 videos put out. We're going to reach out to some of the other irrigation companies and rural water districts, as well as the tribe, and try to get a unified message out about water conservation and drought mitigation. And then we had our detox IGA meeting last Friday, and I'll just bring the commissioners up to board on that. Let me make that a little bigger so you can actually read it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't read any of that, Shaq.
Oh, with that attitude. Squint, man, squint. Maybe make it one size smaller. Oops, that's the other side. So noticeably, you can see most of the people being sent to the detox center from Montezuma County are actually going from Southwest Memorial. You don't see any from the city of Cortez because they only have their detox people transported once it's court ordered, and then it's the sheriff's office that ends up transporting those. And then also noticeably, you don't see any moving from Toyac, and I think most of those also is because they go through Southwest first. And so you can see that Southwest had the majority of those being transported from Montezuma County. As far as utilization trends, 2021 was up over 2020, but definitely not back to the rolling average. A lot of that is because of the COVID restrictions and public health places in the state, and especially those under San Juan Basin Public Health weren't allowed to take in anybody that had a cough, anybody that had a fever, those types of things. But they are hoping to see a recovery on that. And then the last thing I would share with the commissioners would be the financial statement from the IGA. And I'm happy to print this out if the commissioners want a printed copy of it. But largely, they came out with their expenditures under budget, and I think that is mostly due to not being able to find and replace staff, as well as obviously they didn't have as many beds to fill. So they did come out under budget on that. And then the last thing I would say is we have begun our meetings of the Southwest Opioid Response District, the SWORD, and we're going to have another meeting this Thursday, March 17th. We have officially, as the board ratified the bylaws, we're still looking for, I believe, 5 seats at this point for advisory board. Those would be non-voting members. And we're looking for those specifically outside of the La Plata County area, as most of the non-voting members are being seated from La Plata County at this point. So if anybody is interested in having an advisory role on that board, see me. I'd be happy to get an application, and we can discuss that, especially looking for people with lived experiences that can help guide some of those discussions. And along those lines, Senators Bennett and Hickenlooper were able to provide the money for the feasibility study that is going to be needed to help determine exactly what the gaps are, what the 5-county region can and can't afford. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions that the commission has about either the detox, the Southwest opioid, or water conservation.
Question? I'll make a comment. As far as the water conservation, I think that, we're looking at another, drought year. The line looks good, like Mr. Spratland said this morning, but you take a month of it, drying out, the wind blowing, and that line's going to move right back to where it was previously. So everything we can use for conservation, soil health, so on and so forth really helps. One item that was presented to us last week was the water conservation district that was in here. People, if you don't know about them, look them up. They do have some programs that can help you with even small acreages, which is beneficial to the overall community. As far as the SWORD, I don't, the opioids are still just I wish I could figure out how to get anything around that issue, but we'll just keep going forward in a positive manner, I think, and work to that.
Any timeline on your study?
We got the funding approved. I'm not sure how long it'll take to get the study done, but I will report back to you once I have a ballpark idea on that.
Okay.
I'm interested to see how that comes out.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No.
Commissioner? Okay. Okay, that it?
That's it for my report, unless I come up with something smart alecky to say.
Okay, well, with
Yeah, we'll
that,
take-
we're gonna bring up, I see,
Like stall for 10 more minutes?
Go ahead and do commissioner reports.
well, I
His
thought,
hearing at 10 is obviously running very over, so he's trying to hurry. He thought he should be done now and driving over, so.
okay, well, we can stall for maybe 10 minutes. All right, gentlemen, we'll go to the commissioners' reports. Commissioner Copenhaver, you get to go first this week.
This last week, I attended the Mancus Town meeting. There was not a whole lot on their agenda this last week. They got through in probably less than an hour's time. We did discuss a little bit about the possibility of sales tax and that sort of thing with them, and what their feelings about it were. They did ask me about the results of our survey. I guess I couldn't answer. 'Cause I didn't-
Are you talking
didn't-
about the gravel pit or the sales tax survey?
The sales tax survey.
I'll be happy to send you those.
Okay. Okay.
And we can send that out, because we finished that in, well, I think.
The
this-
end of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the end of last year, so we had those results right at the first of the year. So
Yes.
we do have that.
Okay.
The result of that.
Okay, I told them I would get them for them,
Yep.
but that I really couldn't answer that because I didn't know, so.
Well, that was kind of, you probably wouldn't,
Yeah,
kind of a tough question to answer.
yeah. Anyway, what else went on last week? I guess that's all I have right now.
Okay.
I am gonna go up to the Club 20 watershed meetings this next week on Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Very good. Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes, besides messages and phone calls, somebody dropped something. Anyway, I attended Cortez City Council meeting, and they did open up their public input portion more to the public so people can have their input up there. Also, we, as a group, attended a presentation by Region 9 about, a lot about population numbers, and they're about a year old, but it does show a decline in, we're not having enough babies, let's put it that way. And I also did notice on some of my reports, there's an abortion bill in the state, so they might want to rethink that. If we're not having babies, let's not be killing babies. If you have a chance, write your legislator. Tell them this is not a good idea for late-term abortions, put it that way. So, other than that, we did go to a Republican General Assembly meeting, and that took about 5 hours. But also, it's my sad duty to report the passing of former Commissioner Helen McClellan. So, out to all their families and loved ones, our blessings to you. Thank you.
Okay. Gosh, I had not heard that. Okay, I took off last week, Wednesday, had to go to Durango. I had to meet with CDOT, myself, Matt Selka from La Plata County, Commissioner Garcher from Dolores County. We met with Mark Garcia, the transportation, he's not a transportation engineer, but a transportation representative for the Region 5 CDOT, Region 9 our area, and we were talking with Bob Pfeiffer, who is the state's apparently relatively new appointed fiber guy. What was brought to our attention in a meeting that we had a couple months ago, that in Dolores County, they were having an issue of using CDOT's right-of-ways, and they were actually going out of the right-of-way and going to pole attachments. So a meeting was set up for us for the counties where that's coming into, to kind of discuss what CDOT's issues were and, you know, what the provider's issues were. More to follow on that, but I guess there's a special meeting today. Haven't gotten an invite to it, so I don't know if it's still happening or not, but further more to come as that goes on. Thursday, Friday, I spent with CCI all day going over bills. I did give an update last night to Dolores because they do or have just newly accepted some of the marijuana uses in Dolores. So House Bill 1122, 1152, which prohibits employers' adverse action against marijuana use. That was a new bill that just came out. Didn't really get to a real position on that one yet, but I'm sure we are going to oppose it. The retail and medical marijuana, same location, House Bill 22, 1037. Went over that with them. There is a House Bill 22, 1097. There's a dissolution of special districts. We did support that. And again, I'm giving you guys the numbers so you can look them all up because they're way too lengthy to kind of give you the entire synopsis of it. Went over House Bill 22, 1135, the marijuana transporter license transfers, and I've already mentioned Senate Bill 22065, the modification to county coroner salaries with our coroner earlier. But one of the biggest ones is Senate Bill 22120, which is a regulation of kratom processors. So I don't mind being the ignorant one in the room because I had to raise my hand and ask, what is kratom? Never even heard of it before. Well, apparently it comes from a tree, a leaf in Southeast Asia, but it's being used for management of opioid addiction, but it's also being sold through the retail marijuana shop. So this is a regulatory bill. It basically is going to establish the minimum requirements for kratom products, and it's going to prohibit the sale of kratom products to individuals under 18. It sounds like that's going to move from 18 up to 21. But if you've never heard of kratom, I recommend you look it up because it's something that's new out there, specifically fire departments, ambulances. You guys might be dealing with it, or you guys might already know about it. I, however, did not. So it was kind of new to me. There is one bill, like Commissioner Copenhagen and I talked about, the $50 million that has still been allocated for a one-time PILT payment in lieu of taxes to all of the counties that are that currently get a PILT payment. Montezuma County does get a PILT payment. We are almost 73% public land. So more to come on that as soon as they get that through the House and the Senate. I did talk to our executive director at CCI just before the meeting started. I'm going to call him back to see where that sits, but within a month to 6 weeks, we should be hearing on that. Something that we always fight, Commissioner Copenhagen brought it to my attention, that says we're talking about taxes with 73% basically public lands. We don't get what other counties get because it's all in private holdings. So we are restricted by what we get with our PILT payments. And that's why we have such a small coffers coming in. I mean, we just, 26% is all we get from the 2,040 square miles that are in Montezuma County. So it's a big issue, and we are always trying to get this thing funded. Where I was going was Commissioner Copenhagen said one time they put the allocations out and you get a 10% funding of the allocation. So it's extremely hard to try and develop a budget on a payment that you don't even know what it's going to be. And if it's 10% of what the allocations might be, it's hard to put it anywhere in there. So,
and it is subject to congressional approval each year, so you may or may not.
Correct. So and although our land is still here, we still have the 73, almost 73% in our county. It's really tough to make any kind of budgets based on that. You're basing your numbers off of 26% of your entire acreage of your 2,040 square miles. So we'll wait to hear from that. Hopefully they will pay us what they owe us, but I'll keep you informed on that. Pretty busy day, Thursday, Friday. Again, attended the meeting with these gentlemen on Friday night. And then yesterday we had our workshop. We went over House Bill 21-1085, basically talked about the rules of pertaining to the secure transportation of patients in behavioral health crisis. With us were Southwest Ambulance, our public health, Bobby Locke, Kent Aiken, Access Integrated Health. Makes Marshall was invited. He couldn't be here yesterday. Our sheriff was here. Cortez Fire Protection District was here. I believe Pleasant View was here also. And might be missing somebody, but it sounds like this is going to be approved at the lowest level of an ambulance, or not an ambulance, but licensing for transport. So there are different transport certifications, ALS, BLS, and then there's just a transport capability of being able to move these people to where they need to go from point A to point B. We also talked more about the sales tax, a PSST versus a general sales tax, and then we went into some more continuing discussions over our budget and just talks of what we're thinking about might have to happen this year based on the current state of affairs. Something that is a little bit positive, Kinder Morgan is stable and actually shows that they are up just a little bit, which is a positive. It's not going the wrong way, at least, so hopefully if it stabilizes and can come up some, that's going to help significantly. And I'm sure I've probably forgotten something, but I believe that's all I have for now. I did miss the STAC committee meeting. It was also on Friday while CCI was going on, which is the State Transportation Advisory Committee, STAC. Obviously can't be in two places at one time. So I've killed 10 minutes, and look at that. All right, would you two come down?
Commissioners, thank you so much for making the time to meet with me today. I apologize, I was in court, so once I got out of that, I rushed right over here to come talk to y'all. Shaq had emailed us, I think, last week in regards to the commissioner's plans as it relates to a public safety sales tax. And so we had put together some numbers of what that could look like for us, for our employees, and why we are requesting an increase if that public safety sales tax were to go through. And the first is, in looking at our total budget, we have a need for, but not room in the budget for, an additional legal assistant. The base salary for legal assistants right now is $35,000. We are asking for an 8% cost of living adjustment across the board. Why 8%? That would be, at this point, just keeping up with, and not quite, with the inflation. And so what we are finding when we're attempting to hire folks, attorneys, legal assistants, whomever, is one of the issues that we have in competing with the market right now is that folks coming in are to our community are having a very difficult time finding housing. And folks coming into our community notice that the cost of living just across the board, from gas prices to milk to basic necessities that one might pick up at Walmart, have increased considerably. And so in looking at what we would use that money for, what I would really like to use that money for is to make sure that the same dollars that our employees spend now go as far as they did last year. without a noticeable cost of living adjustment, essentially what happens is we pay our employees at essentially the same rate, but that spending capacity that they have does not go as far in the community. This is not something I think the commissioners can fix. You know, if you guys have a lever that adjusts inflation, pull it now. But what we can do is we can supplement these employees' income so that it makes sense for them to stay here, to stay within the community. So many of our folks are people that have been integrated into the community for years and years now, love Montezuma County, love where they work, love what they do, but in order to keep doing it, they need some assistance. So ultimately, the numbers that we sent over are going to be for an increase to a budgetary consideration for next year in the amount of $124,153. And Clarissa, who did all the math, can break this down for you. But essentially what that is an additional legal assistant and 8% cost of living adjustment and then commensurate benefit adjustments.
And I was just going to talk a little bit about the need for an additional legal assistant. We're seeing an influx of more material. And so a lot of laws that have changed that will be effective this year are the additional body cams, additional reporting, additional data released to the public, and we're finding that we can't keep up with all of it. It takes my most experienced intellectual legal assistants so much time, hours upon hours, just to retrieve the data from law enforcement, sort it to its appropriate file, and then disclose it to defense. They're not able to keep up on it. And so just within the last year or two, we've noticed that we're not keeping our heads above water anymore with a lot of that material. And especially with these new laws going into effect, we need additional help on the administrative side, which we've never had asked for before. So.
And I could talk to you guys a little bit about that, but as the commissioners know, body-worn cams are now a requirement for all law enforcement agencies. And there are specific requirements as to when those must be turned on and how they must be used. And so what that does is it increases the volume of discovery, which is information that we are legally required to provide to defense, considerably. And the way in which we're going to fix having to deal with that additional discovery is to hire an additional legal assistant.
So let me ask you a question, because this all came about and it has to be implemented finally by 2023, correct?
Correct.
And that was Senate Bill 217.
I'm sure you're correct on that.
So, with that, which is what we are fighting at CCI all the time, so they said, okay, well, we'll go ahead and we'll buy you the first body cams. And we're like, okay, that doesn't do anything. It's still an unfunded mandate.
Right.
Because next year it takes updates. The following year, they're out of, they don't even exist anymore, and then they have to be replaced.
Storage.
Well, in their mindset, and then it doesn't even include any of this. So with Senate Bill 217, have you guys, through the DA's Association, fought this? Because Senate Bill 217 is killing a lot of counties.
CDAC, so the Colorado District Attorney Council, of which we are members, was opposed to that bill in the form that it was presented. Obviously, the state felt that that was appropriate somehow, but the state has put a number of new mandates on us, including, you know, we're going to be the 48-hour bond bill and things of that nature, and has not, in my mind, provided appropriate assistance to the counties that are directly impacted by these mandates in the form of, you know, specifically for the body-worn cams. It's not just the cameras. You
No,
have to
correct.
think about,
And that's what, when we were discussing it, it's not just the cameras, guys. It's everything that goes along with the cameras and the language that went into it. And that's,
yeah, storage
again,
space and capacity is going to be an issue. I mean, we're talking about literally terabytes worth of data that is going to be needed to be stored for prolonged periods of time. And I can tell you the first time we run into an issue with a video being deleted or not preserved appropriately, there's going to be a motion from defense to dismiss that particular case. And so I know that the Sheriff's Department, CPD, our local law enforcement agencies have been working very hard to increase and maintain that storage capacity and maintain redundancy with that storage capacity. That's not something that just happens. That costs. The other thing I will mention to you guys is there are a number of House bills and Senate bills moving through right now that directly impact this community from a law enforcement perspective. There's a bill, a House bill, that is working its way through committee right now that would raise the age from which we can start using the juvenile adjudication process, i.e. filing cases related to juveniles, from 10 to 13 in most circumstances. I think that this directly impacts our community, our ability to have early interventions in children's lives, to keep them out of the system long term. And I can't stress enough how much we should be in opposition to that bill. I know CDAC has come out in a stance opposed to that bill, again, the Colorado District Attorney Council. And I just want to make sure that that is something that's on the radar for the county commissioners group, because it is, I can't stress enough how
Do you have that
detrimental
number?
and impact. I could look real quick, if you give me one second.
Just send it to me.
Will do. But that's the one that's causing me the most heartburn at the moment. There's a couple others in there too, and Commissioner Candelaria, I'm happy to send you kind of a rundown on what those are.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice to see how they're aligning with the county commissioners as we're voting through this legislative process. And we're only halfway there.
Right.
Just now hit the halfway point. So we have a long way to go. If it drags out like it did last year, it'll be in June again, which is not good, but they just keep throwing them in there, and it's really hard to digest all of them and read them.
So I feel like a lot of times I come to you guys and say, this is bad news, these are the bad things that's happening. Let me talk to you guys for a second about the positive news coming out of the district attorney's office. And the positive news is we are getting back up to staff from the attorney perspective. We have a new intern who's working to secure his license here to practice in Colorado. We expect that will happen within the month. And he will be deputy district attorney here. We have an experienced attorney coming in from the Philadelphia area. He used to work in Leadville as a prosecutor there. He's going to help us out with some of our felony caseload. So we are getting back up to speed from a staffing perspective, and that's going to help immensely with workflow in the district attorney's office. So we're very excited about the new folks coming in and frankly want to see what they've got. So wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to meet with me, and then as always just leave it open to any questions that you guys might have and it relates to the office.
I think the biggest question for me is get me that list so that when I'm back up there again, that we know if it's aligning. I thank Kim, I thank the sheriff all the time. It seems like while I'm in these meetings and we're sitting in there discussing these bills, and I'm texting our staff all the time trying to figure out, hey, where are you guys aligning on these? You know, do we need to oppose, support? We can only take 4 positions, amend.
Yeah. The biggest one for me is that juvenile bill. That is just a complete step in the wrong direction. It is very analogous to what happened when they started to deregulate in so much as there's no more felony convictions for drug cases. The collateral consequences from this action are going to be far-reaching within this community. So.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, if there's nothing else for the good of the county here, I will entertain the
Motion to adjourn.
I'd like to just interrupt just because I can.
Wait a minute. I've already went by you, so you really can't.
Well, I haven't heard a second.
It was something about a smart comment, wasn't it?
No, just with all that came up with the reporting about the fentanyl and then the drug that you had mentioned, CRA, what was it?
Kratom? Or
Kratom.
Kratom.
Kratom. I did want to do a re-education just real quickly for the people watching by YouTube and those in the room, that on the county's website, under our behavioral health tab, we do have links to everything that the DEA is putting out as far as identifying drugs, drug prevention, how they're using it on schools, as well as we have links to places where you can educate yourself on, how you can help people that are in these situations, take classes and learn to help mentor. And you certainly wouldn't be a certified counselor, but if you're looking for tips and ways to help in these situations, there are links to all of that on the county website, montezumacounty.org. I'm done now.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn this March 14th meeting, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.